Why are you so against this ban?
Okay, so I'm about to be on News Nation, and please ignore my messy desk, because it's my husband's messy desk. I'm just borrowing it because his lighting is better.
He's in a catch-22. All right, Ryan Matthew, with that, thank you so much. Well, TikTok is in trouble, with creators on the social media platform anxiously awaiting to see if the Chinese company will sell or be banned here in the U.S.
So I ask you, President Biden, if TikTok is such a risk to our national security, why are you here?
After the break, I'll be speaking with this TikTok influencer who actually went to Capitol Hill to fight for the social media platform. Stay tuned for her message for President Biden.
If any of you knew that I'm essentially sitting in a booster seat, you would die. I'm too short for this chair and this desk. So, I have 4 bolts of fabric sitting under me so that I can reach, because I'm just little.
The clock is ticking for TikTok, the Chinese company facing a deadline to divest in the U.S. by January.
Stand by, we'll be with you shortly.
Or it will not be able to operate in this country. The sell or be banned deadline marks the first time the U.S. has passed a law that could trigger a social media platform to be blocked in the States. The app is used by about half of this country's population, 170 million Americans. And TikTok's economic impact report claims that it drove $15 billion in revenue for U.S. small businesses last year. It's also where 1/3 of our young people are getting their news. This is according to the Pew Research Center. But that is a red flag for national security officials in Washington, fearing possible influence by the Chinese government. President Biden, along with lawmakers, have argued that the company is beholden to the country's authoritarian communist regime.
This is a huge collection tool, in both in terms of data and in terms of propaganda for the Chinese. I think there's a lot of creativity on TikTok. I don't want it to go away. I just don't want at the end of the day it being controlled by a foreign adversary.
Well, TikTok denies ever sharing U.S. consumer data with the Chinese government. And ahead of the deadline, the company is promising to sue, calling the measure unconstitutional. Here is the latest from TikTok CEO.
TikTok gives everyday Americans a powerful way to be seen and heard, and that's why so many people have made TikTok part of their daily lives. Rest assured, we aren't going anywhere. We are confident, and we will keep fighting for your rights in the courts.
All right, to talk more about this potential TikTok ban,
I want to bring in TikTok content creator and supporter Tiffany Cianci. Tiffany, it's so good to see you. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Tiffany, I know you have more than 140,000 hard-won followers. Why are you so against this ban? What would it mean for you?
Well, I came to TikTok as a small business user that needed help and support. And the support I found has literally saved my ability to advocate for others. I've turned my platform into an advocacy program that allows small businesses all across the United States to tap into the network that I've built, and I take their stories to Washington, D.C. My entire TikTok portfolio, my entire TikTok account is built on telling people that their legislators will listen, and I'll help them tell their stories. So right now I feel like a little bit of a hypocrite, if I'm being honest, because they are not being heard.
What is your message for President Biden?
Right now, I think it's positively shameful that President Biden would have the audacity to sign this TikTok ban. And he offered to sign it when it was a standalone bill. So just because it was part of this package, I don't think gives any weight or ability to give him any leeway on this, especially now that his campaign has decided they're going to stay on TikTok to exploit it to access the young voters, especially that he's already struggling with. I find it shameful. If it were a dangerous platform and a danger to our national security, he wouldn't be there, and neither would so many of the other Congress members that actually signed the bill.
I do want to ask you, let's talk about the other side, Tiffany, because I hear that this is not only fun and educational, it benefits so many creators and American small businesses. That is a fact. Devil's advocate, right? There are other U.S.-based platforms that people could use, and we are talking about really big concerns. We're talking about national security and spying and influence over our elections, our democracy. What do you say about those concerns?
Well, TikTok has the ability to help small businesses in ways that other platforms like Meta and Google do not. Meta and Google get 99% of their revenue from ad revenue. So if you're a small business that wants to gain any kind of consumer base, want to get support for your small business, you have to pay to play in those arenas. It's almost impossible to organically grow your business. Whereas on TikTok, TikTok makes a ton of their money from percentages of sales. So small businesses can go viral every day. They can build organic communities without having to have huge marketing budgets, which I think is really the risk to Meta and Google and why they're spending so much money to convince all of us that TikTok is dangerous. But where the danger everybody keeps saying is concerned, TikTok has invested $2 billion into Project Texas to house our information at Oracle. And Oracle is the same corporation. First of all, it was founded by our government. And it's the same organization that our government trusts with our JWCC Allied Warfare cloud computing system that all our allies and our government store their data on.
Yeah.
They have a top secret classification for data. If our government's data is safe there, TikTok's data should be safe
Tiffany,
there.
and I hear you. We're almost out of time, so I just want to make sure to ask you one more thing. That is assuming that the government in China does not compel ByteDance to disclose data and information. And it seems that most experts agree that it could do that in the future. I guess I want to ask you this hypothetical. If you knew that your data, your location, your information, your leanings were being shared with the Chinese government, would you care? Or is that the price of using this very valuable app?
I don't believe that that's a risk that I'm suffering, but if it's my information to give freely, I think all of our users should be able to make that choice. Our First Amendment rights are too important to sacrifice.
Okay. I really appreciate your time. It's a complicated issue, but Tiffany, I appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, he sits.
You're clear, Tiffany. Thank you so much.
Okay, and that was it. That was fast, but it was important. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and we work together to fight private equity and save small businesses in our community. And today, we fight to save TikTok.